back to our channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the controversial It Ends With Us movie and book. I read the book a year and a half ago. I really liked it. I definitely cried, so if I cry then I feel like I like it, but I cry at everything, so I might like everything.
And I just finished the book this Friday.
And we watched the movie
on Friday. This video and just book and movie cover very distressing topics and very important topics. And we want to take care and make sure that those topics are fully discussed in a way that is, paying homage to what they are and everything that, survivors go through. And I think we are not experts on any of this per se, and I think a lot of our topics for this video are going to be more about the comparison between the book and the movie, and they are not going to have as much to do with, I guess, what it may be like to go through some of the things that happen in this book from, that point of view or perspective, because we don't really have that. But let us know if you have any uncomfortableness and things like that. And also there may be some things that can be triggering from what we said, so just take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, this book and this movie cover topics of domestic violence and sexual assault, so if you're not in the right headspace to be talking or hearing about that today, then feel free to just not watch. You can catch us in any of our other videos.
And we're gonna try to do the topic as much justice as possible. Especially as women, it's just so important to make sure that this is respected and as much as possible. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that being said, let's get into it. So It Ends With Us.
This is us.
This Is Us is a TV show, right?
Yeah.
With Mandy Moore?
I don't know.
I think. I really like This Is Us
I think
too.
my mom watches that.
I watched it and it was good. But It Ends With Us, the setting takes place in Boston.
Which is wild.
Why do you think that's wild?
Because I used to live there.
I know. She went to school in Boston.
And I was just like, wow, Boston.
Okay. But it takes place in Boston. We follow the life of, in the book, she's 23.
Yeah. In
the movie, they don't really tell the age.
I'm assuming she's a little bit older though.
I'm assuming she's
They're
maybe
both
30.
a little bit older. Yeah.
But we follow the life of Lily Bloom and her relationship with Ryle Kincaid, and the whirlwind of romance and heartbreak that follows after. Getting into all of the characters, kind of already discussed. Lily Blossom Bloom.
Main character.
Yeah, she's the main character. Her name is a joke in and out of the book, and she owns a flower shop. Her main love interest is Ryle Kincaid. He's a neurosurgeon and he's really sexy.
Especially in Scrubs.
Yeah. We'll get into that in the next subject. Then we have Atlas. What's his last name?
I don't know.
Atlas Corrigan.
Oh.
I think. Yeah. So he is Lily's first love, and he's 2.5 years older than her. So technically he should be 25, 26. And then we have, in the books, not really talked about in the movie, Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
Which
she's
is
a really big part. Which
she's
is
a
kind
really
of
big part in the
hilarious in a sense.
No, yeah, there's a part of me that's like, Colleen.
Well, it didn't age well.
Could it not have been like Oprah? Could it not have been like anyone else? It's okay. Ellen DeGeneres is okay. But basically, Ellen plays this pseudo parent figure, like comfort character to Lily as she grows up in her tumultuous like home life.
She writes diary entries addressed to Ellen as if she's kind of having conversation or writing like fan mail to her,
and kind of just uses Ellen's wisdom
as
I
like
feel
an
like,
outlet.
yeah,
and
exactly.
like the TV show as well.
Mechanism.
Yeah. And I thought that was actually a really nice touch. I think it was very interesting to see that.
And then I think not the last important person, Lily's mother. She is a DV survivor herself, and just someone that perpetuates the abuse cycle, I guess, in Lily's life. And then lastly, Alyssa and her husband. I don't remember her husband's name. Marshall. But they're Ryle's sister and his best friend, and they become Lily's best friend. And they just kind of have that relationship. So then moving on, I guess, let's talk generally differences between the book and the movie and like what you liked and what you didn't like.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think with the book, I didn't read it, I listened to it. So that is, I pick up a lot more when I read than when I listen. So I think going into the movie, I knew what would happen, but I don't know if I knew all of the details, you know? And so like it took me a while to be like, that actually didn't happen in the book or in the movie, like, you know what I mean? So yeah.
No, that's okay. I think the biggest difference from the book and the movie is how her relationship with Atlas is, and how she initially responds to Ryle, right? Because I think initially she's a little cautious with Ryle, like she's very strict on her boundaries, and she now knows what she wants before she enters into a relationship with him. In the movie, the lines are a little blurred. There's a little bit more lust there in the beginning, and maybe that's for like cinematic entertainment, but it's just not the same as in the book. And I think that kind of impacts how I see their relationship and you know what happens after.
I also think like it was interesting because in the movie, I don't think it came across of how different this was for Ryle. Like Ryle is this kind of playboy, like isn't really in serious relationships, doesn't really have serious relationships, and here comes Lily. He basically propositions her right off the front, and she's like no, and he can't really get her out of her mind, and he literally like begs her. He's like, can we just hook up once? Like I just need to get you out of my system. And we kind of see this kind of, I don't know, interesting aspect to his personality where it is very, it's almost like addictive in the sense, like you see him kind of treat her as like an addiction at the beginning.
Like love bombing. Yeah,
in a sense. And I think you don't see that as much in the movie. It is kind of just like, oh, I can't, it's more of like, I can't get you out of my mind, can't take my mind off of you kind of thing. But I do think that didn't come across as like, as intense.
No, a lot of it, because the book spans over like 2-3 years.
It's a while.
The movie had a really hard time translating that.
Yes.
We kind of saw time jumps through like seasons, and then like just watching people look different. I can't like we're not at the spoiler version yet, but you know, like people are gonna look different as they age and stuff. But yeah, the other thing that I thought was distinctly different, other than the Ellen DeGeneres thing, because Ellen DeGeneres really isn't in
was taken
the
out,
movie
and
all.
they had like the whole like Finding Nemo thing, like
Yeah,
which
that was a really
big
part of the
part.
book.
And I get somewhat because, you know, like copyright and like things like that, like it's a little bit harder, I'm guessing, for a movie, but I do think it was lacking, like it was an important part of the story.
And then the third one is her whole relationship with Atlas. We get some of it, we just don't get enough of it. I feel like Atlas was this person in her life that made her see what she could have, or made her want to be better, and I just didn't get that through the film.
I think also Atlas and Lily's relationship was so monumental to their beings and who they grew up to be, and I think that part was lost for me. Like, I think the book did a really good job of, even though a lot of it was written through diary entries, of showing just how important that relationship was to the both of them. And I think it just didn't come as powerful on the screen. It wasn't as much of a powerful relationship, I think.
Right, I agree. Like, it just was kind of like a teen romance, but in the books they gave each other life.
And I think one thing that was so interesting is, like, I think there was a line or something where it was like, I can never do casual with you. Like, nothing about the relationship was ever casual, and I think in the movie it seemed a little bit more casual, and I think that was like a really big defining factor of relationship. Like, they were never anything casual. It was all these feelings all the time, just big emotions, even when they were just 16, 18, whatever. And that was really the big part of their life.
So we're moving on to the spoiler section. If you haven't watched or read It Ends With Us, why don't you go do that and then come back, and then we can discuss. So getting into major events and talking about like the relationships that happen through this major event, I want to talk about the rooftop scene. It's a very famous scene. Everyone kind of knows it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's one of the more famous scenes.
I have not been, so to back up way a bit, like, I am a really big reader. This is the first Colleen Hoover book I've read, and it's probably going to be the last. Not that I didn't love it. It's just not my cup of tea. I thought it was great. I thought it was pretty well done, actually, and I was pretty surprised. But
well, Colleen Hoover gets a bad rap.
I think she gets a bad rap, and that's all I've heard. So I think I was surprised in that sense.
I mean, like, I think It Ends With Us is one of her better books because she does have a lot of controversial one-liners. All of her books.
But I think I didn't know anything about the movie, didn't know anything about the book. I didn't know, like, when I read it, it could have been about anything. Like, and I think, you know, now being on the other end, I was like, that's just not what I thought it was about at all. So I had a point. But I think my point was, I haven't heard anything about this book. Like, I've read it so I could go see the movie.
I feel like It Ends With Us is such a big thing on Book Talk.
It is, and that's why I'm saying, like, somehow I'm not on that side of Book Talk. Because I'm more fantasy, romance. Even though this is romance, I'm not a realistic fiction romance sad person.
Me too, which is surprising. Like, I didn't think that this type of story would make me feel something the way that it made me feel, but reading it, like, my heart just broke for our main character. And like what she went through, and her and Atlas's relationship. But yeah, getting into the major events. I feel like it's such a famous scene, the rooftop scene. I feel like everyone knows it because it's literally the opening of the book.
Yeah.
Which I think is a wild way to open a book.
It's a wild way to open a book, and it is a beautiful way to open a book. I was like, what the heck is happening?
It's so Colleen Hoover, though.
Well, because interestingly enough, when I was reading or listening to the book, I knew she ended up with Atlas. So I thought it was Atlas the whole time when he was on the roof until you said his name was Ryle. I was like, Ryle, what?
Also, I thought his name was Riley. So, anywho.
And so I was like, who is this man?
So in the book, this is how, I don't know, we're first meeting Lily and Ryle. Lily is on a rooftop because...
Well, yeah, continue.
One, she's on a rooftop, a random building in Boston. And I'm like, how do you just get on the rooftop of a random building? I don't think you can do that. But she's just kind of sitting on the ledge, contemplating her life because she just gave a eulogy for her father's funeral. And she had nothing good to say about him. So she just didn't say anything. And Ryle comes in and he kicks a chair and just continues to kick it. And then she's like, what did the chair do to you? And they kind of get to talking. And they end up sharing naked truths. And basically, she's like, naked truth, I'm here because I'm just thinking about my dad's funeral and how I had nothing good to say about him. And then he's like, okay, naked truth, I kicked that chair because one of my patients died. He's a neurosurgeon, by the way. A young patient of his died because they were playing with guns and the brother accidentally shot him, and it wasn't good, and he was kind of just talking through that, and she's like, I'm so sorry. And then next thing you know, he's like, naked truth, I want to you. and then she's like, no thanks. And he gets paged and like they leave.
Well, I think something that is kind of also important about a big difference between the book and the movie is like she, you know, wasn't really a big fan of her father in some sense, and she was gonna say 5 things she liked about her father, and in the book she just stood there for 10 minutes or like 2 minutes and didn't say anything. I think in the movie she like ran out. I think that was a very interesting change, but that is kind of like why she's sitting up there, because she was contemplating, you know, losing this person who had a really complicated like relationship with her.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the movie doesn't open with this scene. The movie opens with her driving back home to Maine.
And you see the funeral.
Right, and that's not something that we ever see in the book, but I think it translated really well because that's something that we needed to see.
I don't know. I think it kind of missed the point.
Really?
I think so, because even later in the book, you get that moment with her mom when she's like, I'm so proud of you for standing up there and not saying anything. She's like, I knew you weren't nervous. I knew you did that on purpose, and I don't think you got this was a purposeful thing in the movie. And I think that kind of just took away the whole point of it. And she felt bad for it, but she would have done it again. Like, this was something that she did on purpose, and it was intentional. And I think you didn't get that in the movie.
Okay, yeah, I get that. But yeah, in the movie, we see this whole interaction on the rooftop happen between Ryle and Lily. Ryle storms in, and he only kicks the chair once, which is different from in the books, because in the books he like, goes to town. He's just kicking the chair, and they still have that interaction, except like a criticism I have about the movie is that Lily Bloom and Blake Lively are like the same person. Like Blake Lively didn't play as Lily Bloom. I feel like she played as Blake Lively.
I think Lily Bloom is a very different character than in the book than in the movie.
Yeah. And maybe it was just because they were such big named people.
Yeah,
like it was very hard
to take them out of it.
Yeah, like I just couldn't see Justin and Blake.
I saw Justin more than Blake, to be entirely honest.
In terms of like separation from their characters?
Yeah, in terms of separation from their characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier for me to, because I think Justin had such a big difference in like who he was, like just knowing Justin. But you know what I mean? Like there was a lot more of a, I guess, disparity between.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot easier to be like, okay, like I know that, like he wouldn't do that.
Right. But even then, like, it was still so hard for me to like see the couple interact.
Yeah.
Like they had chemistry. They did.
I don't know.
Weird.
I'm real. Okay. Sorry. Moment.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at telling when people have chemistry and when they don't. Because everyone's saying, I was like, I just didn't think they, I don't know. I think they had, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's just something weird, but I'm like, I can never tell when it's like real chemistry. Because I was like, I feel like they were just kind of there in a sense. But I do, and this might be a hot take, but I think they had more chemistry than she did with Atlas in the movie. And that is just my personal opinion.
Well, yeah, they did because Atlas wasn't even shown in the movie.
Yeah, but that, I guess.
Well, anywho, the main difference with the rooftop scene is that in the movie, Ryle is like, I want to sleep with you. And Lily's like, I'm more of the kind of girl you take home to your mama. And he like scoots her forward and she kind of wants to like make out with him. And that's not something that happens in the book. I don't think so.
I do think they make out on the rooftop.
They do?
I think so.
I don't remember.
I think that I do remember the line of, well, how far is it, like, can I go? Like him asking that. And then his phone ringing and it interrupting them. And Lily being like, wait, I got totally entrapped in that. That's not what I wanted. Like, I remember that happening. And so I feel like that actually played out pretty similar in the book and the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, she read the book a lot more recently, so take her. But from the rooftop scene, I think you get a clear perspective of, like, who Lily is and who Ryle is. And that's really good foreshadowing into the acts that he commits against her later in the book. Because, I mean, he's kicking a chair.
And it's so interesting because at the beginning, it's such a thing where it's like, oh, this dude's mad. He's just kicking a chair.
Exactly.
It's such a perfect, I think, foreshadowing, like you said, where it's not significant enough because you don't have enough information about the characters to be like, this is more. But when you look back, you're like, oh, there was sign number one, you know?
Like something was off.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next major event, I think, is when we meet Atlas. And so Atlas is...
Sorry, can I say something?
Yeah.
I just thought about this, that I think was really interesting because I think Ryle was the one to convince her to open the flower shop. And I think that wasn't shown as much in the movie. Like, it seems like in the movie she already had that thought, and on the rooftop she was more considering it, and he kind of pushed her, and I think that was really important.
No, I think that's important too. And that's a really big distinction that happens between the book and the movie on the rooftop. So basically in the book, she's only 23.
Yeah.
And she's contemplating what she wants to do with her life. And she's like, it's a lifelong dream of mine to have had a flower shop. Because she just like is Lily Blossom Bloom and loves flowers. And it's very cliche. And she's like, I know. But Ryle pushes her to do that.
Yeah.
And we never get to see that in the film.
And I think that's so important because I think it builds a bond between them in that sense, especially because they lose touch, and then the first time that they see each other again is in said flower shop. And I think that to me was so important and kind of why their relationship progressed the way it did.
Right. I also think that it's really important that Lily is young.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
to some extent, I disagree with the casting choices, not only because I don't really like Blake Lively's portrayal of Lily Bloom, but because Ryle is 30.
Yeah.
And Lily is only 23.
Yeah.
And he's an abuser.
Yeah.
And he had that power over her, especially because she was so young.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, like, DV can only happen to young women, but I just think that it really showcased how much of an edge he had over her and the relationship dynamic and how it could have turned so bad so quickly.
And I think there's also, like you said, that kind of, like, I think she held him on a pedestal in a sense. And I don't know if you got that as much in the movie. Like, when he said he was a neurosurgeon, like, that laughter, I was like, that was the most Blake thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it just felt like Blake was there, and I was like, wait, I don't think Lily would have
laughed when he said he's a neurosurgeon.
Like, I think she really, like, you see in the book how much she looks up to him and how dedicated he is to his career and all of that. And I think she mimics that in a way,
right,
with her flower shop. And I think that was so important because she's kind of lost when they meet, and he kind of really, I think it's almost this interesting kind of opposite between her and Atlas and her and Ryle. Like, when she finds Atlas, he's really lost, and then they build that relationship, and when Ryle finds her, like, she's lost, and they build that relationship. And I think it's very interesting because I think you see the difference of the power dynamic she has in the relationships with Atlas and then with Ryle. And I think that was really interesting to see in the book, but not as much in the movie.
I disagree. I think that when she met Atlas, they were both lost. They both came from tumultuous. They found themselves within each other and they grew together.
Okay. I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I also think Atlas showed how gentle and, like, compassionate and caring love should be. And Ryle showed more selfish, passion, aggressive love.
The thing is, I don't know if I would call Ryle selfish.
Really?
I don't know if I would.
Really?
and maybe, I don't know. I think in the book, and I hesitate because I do think there are moments where he did make sacrifices for her. He stayed in Boston for her. I think there are things where he was like, I actually do really love you and respect you in some way, where I do think there were some sacrifices on his end, as a relationship should be, where there were things that he did that weren't necessarily like, I don't know if I would call him selfish. I don't think he's a good person, but I don't know if I necessarily would call him selfish.
Okay.
And I don't know how to, like, explain that because without defending him, because everything he did was wrong.
Right. We don't want to defend him.
But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from. I just think he's selfish in the fact that, like, from the get-go in the rooftop scene, he says, I'm a one-night stand kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then continues to love bomb and pursue her.
I do agree with that.
And then continues to confuse her and give her mixed signals and be like, I want you, but you're not good for me, but I really want you, but I'll do this for you. And I think that he's selfish because in all honesty, he should have just never pursued her if she had that boundary.
I think also, like, knowing his past as well and the things he has issues with, he shouldn't be pursuing anyone until he gets that resolved as well.
Right.
Like, that to me is, like, even if it was something that he didn't even know, like, whatever, sometimes we make mistakes. Like, a lot of times you're confused, so you come off as confused. I can kind of see that and be like, I think he was just confused. I just don't think he should be pursuing anything with anyone until he gets himself kind of regulated and checked out. And that to me was the most selfish thing he did. Because it's like, you know this about yourself. Like, even in the book, in the book he's like, I've been in therapy since I was 6. Like, I know I have these issues.
But, like, I think that he's also selfish in the fact that he, like, wants Lily to be with him after he did that to her.
Exactly. And I think that's where his, like, I will say that's where his selfish comes in, where it's like, why are you pursuing her in the first place when you know you don't have a handle on these things? When you know that, like, you shouldn't be in relationships, dude. Like, get yourself together, you know?
No, I agree. Okay, moving on to the next big topic of discussion is when she meets Atlas for the first time. How old are they when they meet?
I don't know.
Like 16?
Oh.
I think she's 16 when she meets him, and he's like 18.
Yeah, because he's about to go to
the Marines.
That.
But, yeah, basically she meets Atlas because she sees him in the home behind hers. He's living in
an abandoned house.
Yeah, because he's homeless and he ran away.
Well, he got kicked out.
Oh, did he?
His mother was also in an abusive relationship, and the man was not a big fan of Atlas, and I think he ended up getting kicked out in some, I can't remember the details.
Okay. But yeah, we meet Atlas, and I think Lily is like just writing to Ellen about how she's noticing that he's like hungry and he's cold, and she just helps him out.
Yeah,
she's really
I think we see how sweet Lily is. I think we also kind of, I don't know, she's not a normal teenager. Like, we don't really see her with a lot of friends. We don't really, and none of this is really explained because it's all from her point of view. But I think we kind of see her as this person that's just slightly quirky, a little bit odd, but in a very endearing way.
But also, I think you can attribute that to the trauma that she's seen.
Well, she does say that, like, she can't bring friends over and like stuff like that. No, you're right.
Yeah, like her dad, we find out is, how do I say this?
Like, very physical with her mom.
Like, he's an abuser to her mom. Basically at home, and this is something that she witnesses on a weekly probably occurrence.
And I think it's interesting because he never touched her. And so I think that added a little bit of a complexity to their relationship, like between Lily and her father. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
Basically, we're introduced to Atlas, Corrigan. He and Lily find each other, and they both kind of come from broken homes, and they kind of give each other a reason to live through their hardships. They're there for each other, and they display a genuine love that Lily has never seen before in her family or in her friends.
Do you think this is the first time she's like felt safe with like a male also?
Probably. Or like probably just felt safe in
with
general.
anyone.
Yeah, because I mean, she's the only child. She's experiencing, I don't know, scary things at home, and she probably doesn't have anyone to talk to about it.
And I think they're both in such extreme and just really hard conditions that they really find that safety in each other. And that is just so important, I think, to their development. And just like even just keep swimming, like, you can move on, we can move on, we can both be more than this situation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so Atlas and Lily, they watch Finding Nemo together, and they have this line that they keep saying, which is just keep swimming, and it kind of represents them just getting through this time in their life and like looking forward to something in the future. It also, you see this when they say Better in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the book, Atlas goes on to open a restaurant called Better in Boston because that's what Lily and Atlas,
Always said.
they would say that to believe that in the future there was a better life for them because they wanted to move to Boston.
Which was interesting how they changed it in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie he has a restaurant called Roots.
Oh yeah, Root.
And it was because in the book Lily has this like heart-shaped carving from Atlas, and it doesn't have a lot of meaning in the book.
I think it does.
It's just something he gave to her.
It gave from the oak tree that she talked about, though.
But was that also in the book?
I think so, because he talked about the oak tree. Like, when Atlas was kind of really down, she basically was, like, saying how the reason why she loves gardening is because if you give flowers to, or if you give love and you put effort into the flowers, they give you something back. And then he was kind of like just like us, like just like people. And then it was kind of in this like sense of trying to like cheer him up from like his circumstances, feeling kind of like cast out and left aside. And she was like, well, you know, this oak tree over there didn't have anyone, and it grew and it is strong and sturdy, and it did that all by itself, just like you can, basically. And I think then he gave her that from the oak tree to symbolize like,
I just don't remember that happening in the book.
I'm pretty sure it did. Maybe I made that up. I'm pretty sure it
definitely
did.
happened in the movie, but I just don't remember if it happened in the book.
I
But
know
yeah.
that conversation happened in the book. I just don't know if it was, that conversation definitely happened in the book.
Okay.
But the heart being from the oak tree is the only thing I'm like, maybe that was just in the movie.
Yeah, but anywho, the movie took that and decided to name his restaurant Root because it came from like the oak tree having roots.
Oh my God!
It didn't really make sense. No, because I think it was talking about, she was saying how the roots are the most
plants.
important part of a plant.
Is that why?
Yeah,
Oh.
it didn't make sense. I don't know why they changed it.
I don't know why they changed it either
It
because
didn't-
I liked Bits.
Yeah.
Like, Better in Boston was cute.
It was, I
But
didn't get it.
I also can understand why they changed it because the heart was the reason why the thing happened later and like it was such a big thing.
Yeah, I was like, it is an important, but in the story, in the book, the magnet also that says Better in Boston.
But that, like,
Is-
in the movie, the magnet wasn't shown nearly as much
I
as
don't
the
even
root.
think. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the root was more important, but I think the magnet
It was what did it.
and that was the whole Better in Boston.
Yeah.
And then it just happened to also just be that like
Mm-hmm.
she had the tattoo and kind of all of these things.
Anywho, she just is taking care of him and they're taking care of each other. And they're each other's, like, hope through this time in their lives. The next thing I wanted to talk about was at Alyssa's party. So Alyssa is Ryle's sister. They're 11 months apart. She's older.
She's older?
Yeah,
Huh.
and that's all.
Huh. I
But
didn't
they're
know
11
that.
months apart. She's
Ryle's
older.
the youngest?
Yeah. No. Yeah, because Emerson was the oldest.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. But at Alyssa's birthday in the books, like it's this big party. She goes into the party and she's staring at this picture and she's like, what is this picture? Like it looks so familiar, but it's not. And it is a huge picture of like a blurred image of her in like Alyssa's living room
Red flag.
that
number
Ryle lives in. And for months, like Ryle's been love bombing her, giving her mixed signals, being
Yeah.
like,
I want you so bad. I can't have you like me.
and then this is the night where she's like, what do you want from me?
And I think this is why I say that like it's almost an obsession with him. Like he does things that you're like, okay, it's cute, but then it's not given the context. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think Like, it's kind of weird, like, that he has that picture.
I think Ryle has an obsession with her because she was unavailable from the start.
Yeah.
Which is what happens in a lot of abusive, narcissistic relationships.
Yeah.
And so I guess, like, she finally confronts him at the party and is like, what do you want from me? Like, and he's like, I want you. And mind you, all of their interactions before this have been cordial. They haven't been very physical or intimate with each other. They've just kind of, he's been flirting with her. Like, hardcore flirting with her, sending her flowers and, like, knocking on doors to see her.
Yeah.
And so finally he's like, I want to be with you. I want to try. You make me want to try. And that's something that I think really is hard to accept for me, because it's like, it really shows that there is a likability to his character. And I liked him so much more in the books than in the movie, just because in the movie we got more of a montage rather than how he actually treated her, made her feel.
Yeah, and I think that was really upsetting, just because I think that was so important to see them together.
And we just didn't have time.
And you just didn't, like, you just didn't, and it just kind of made everything else a little, not lackluster, but not as much of a punch.
Oh, I mean, I think in the books, we understood everything. Like, we were feeling what Lily was feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like in the books, I didn't know I was being love bombed. Lily didn't know she was being love bombed. And then all of a sudden, after, like, months of being love bombed and giving mixed signals, he's like, I want to be with you. And you're just kind of on the ride with Lily, and you're like, I want to be with you too. Like, I'm so happy they're getting together, finally. Like, he's willing to try. And maybe it's because we have this whole narrative of, like, women love to change men. We love the bad boys.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever fell for Ryle, to be entirely honest. I think as a character, I was just like, after I wasn't confused that, like, once I realized they were focusing on him as the love interest and not Atlas, because I was really confused about that, because Atlas was the only person I knew just from the interviews, because they were together, and I was like, oh, they're the main couple. It's not what happened. So I was really confused, but I think it was really hard for me to get behind Ryle because of him never being in a committed relationship. I think that was like, it's like, you guys are not on the same, like, and she kept saying, like, we're not on the same path, we don't want the same things. And to me, I'm like, I don't know if I can fall in love, like, I
think I'm into toxic men.
I don't know.
No, because or maybe I'm not into toxic men, because I'm in an unhealthy relationship, but I think that I really just, maybe I just think I can change people.
And I feel like for me, I wouldn't want to change someone for them to be with me, because then that's where resentment comes from. And I'm not going to have you resent me. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, if you don't want to be with me, fine, whatever. Don't change. Like, you do you. Don't come to me for something that you don't want. Like, and I think it was really hard to put myself into that place, because I don't think it was something that I would.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable.
No, you're good. I don't think it's something I would have fallen for, in the sense of him truly changing. And I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, they're getting, like, they got married. Like, I was like, oh, like, he's actually, like, I was just like, I don't know if I could have gone in fully believing him. And I don't think she did either. Like, I think she was really hesitant, which you get a lot more in the book than you do in the movie. I think in the movie she was like gung-ho. Jinx.
we thought about that at the same time.
But in the book you do have some hesitancy where she's like,
I'm gonna try.
I guess. Like, they do have a trial period. And I think you didn't get that in the movie. Like, it's just like they are in a relationship, but they have in the book, they have a trial period, and then he's like, no, you're my girlfriend, and then she's like, I'm a girl, like, we're girlfriend, like, trial period's over, like, and so I think that made a lot more sense, because I think he was like, I want to try it. And for me as a person, I don't want to be somebody's experiment. And I think that was the missing link for me, where I was like, I don't know if I can connect with that. Not that I don't think it's something that made sense, because I think it made sense being like, he wants to try with me. I'm worthy enough and a beautiful girl and like just a great person that he wants to try with me. And I think that makes sense for Lily. But it was hard for me to get behind Ryle because of that, in my personal.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the movie, it was not completely different. She also goes to Alyssa's party, except Ryle comes up to her and he flirts with her, and she's like, leave me alone. And then previous to this, they had already kissed.
Well, also, the friend wasn't there, because in the book, she has
she brought
like
a
friend, and he's like gay, but like Ryle didn't know that, and it was like kind of to make him jealous, and it works. But she comes alone to the party.
Right. And then Ryle is just kind of like, do you want to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
And she does. Like, they go and they make out in a room, and then she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have sex with you. And then he's like, that's fine, we're going to bed. And then they go to bed. It was
I think that event was important, and the movie didn't capture its importance.
Agreed. I
Because
think it was overlooked.
He ends up just picking her up in the middle of
the
party and just taking her to his bedroom.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this huge thing where he was like, I'm serious about you, like.
And it was like romantic.
Yeah.
And it was like a gesture that showed Lily that like, okay, maybe this could work.
Yeah. And then they did end up not like sleeping together in the book as well, and just kind of like cuddling and like going to bed. But yeah, it wasn't, fully portrayed in the movie.
Yeah, and then we have that conversation in the book that's like, what will it take for you to want to be with me? And she's like, don't sleep with me.
Yeah,
and that's why they go to sleep, and like that's why you kind of build this like pseudo trust in Ryle, that he's wanting to change for her.
Yeah.
Like that he's willing to do what it takes. Whereas like we don't get that in the movie.
Yeah.
We just kind of have that like, okay, let's go to bed.
Yeah.
And they go to bed.
No, I agree. I think that was really important. Because that also, I think, proved to Lily, like, okay, this man is really prepared to do what I need him to do to be with me.
So Lily and Ryle are dating, and Lily's mom's coming into town, and Ryle's like,
I want to meet her.
because I really like you. And they go to this hip, new, suave, best in Boston eatery.
Which, okay, I will say that it is interesting that it took place in Boston, because I love, like, Boston food is actually pretty good from, living there. And I think it was actually a really good setting for this to take place, just with the aesthetic of Boston, of this kind of like, I don't know, what is it called? East Coast kind of like big city, but smallish kind of still vibes. And I think having like the food and things like that, like it just made sense for it to take place in Boston. I don't know.
Cool. I agree. I've never been to Boston. So.
You ever been to Boston?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Not had a reason to.
That's so fair.
But basically, they go and they eat dinner, and lo and behold, she meets Atlas again. And she hasn't seen Atlas since they were teenagers. And so it kind of takes her back, and I think she goes in the back and she goes and talks to him. And it's pretty accurately portrayed in the film as it is in the book.
I agree. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. It's just different in the restaurant's name.
Yeah.
But it was really, I think it was really impactful both in the movie and in the book.
Yeah, I think that was a good one where they're just like, oh my God. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's also interesting because we find out later in the book, like, the last time she kind of saw him was after, like, her dad found them together when they were younger, and kind of like beat him up to like the brink of death, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, I don't know, I think you don't know that when you see them first meet up again. But looking back, you see how kind of important that first meeting was.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, that them meeting together. And
like, she just is happy to know that he's okay. He's happy to know she's okay. Because they still, and it shows that they still have love for each other.
And the fact that they're both in Boston, like, things are better in Boston, that they're happy, like, it kind of also gives this, also kind of an alluding of, like, they're both happy when it's not necessarily the case as well. So I think that was just...
Yeah, because, I mean, Lily at this time is with Ryle, and she's like, are you with anyone? And I think immediately Alice is like, yeah, I'm seeing someone, her name is Cassie.
Yeah.
And later we find out that Cassie never...
He made her up.
Yeah, he made her up. He just didn't want to interfere in her life because she seemed happy. After this, though, is when Trouble in Paradise hits. Everything seems really good with Ryle and Lily. Lily is making him a dinner. She's making him a casserole, and they're kind of home and making out, and then it starts to burn. Ryle reaches in to get the casserole without an oven mitt, which I think is not smart. Like, come on, you're a neurosurgeon.
Just an idiot. Like, that actually was like, you're just an idiot.
That's actually like, why would you do that? I don't understand.
I don't see how that is your first instinct in any way.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's burning, just let it burn. Like, it's fine, just get a mitt.
But I feel like normal people are around ovens enough to just not do that.
I agree. Anywho. But yeah, in the book, I think he burns his hand, and then Lily laughs, and he pushes her, so she hits her head against the counter. But in the movie, she's laughing, he burns his hand, and then hits her as a reflex. I think that's what happened. It kind of, the DV in the movie, from what I've heard on TikTok from survivors, they say that it's pretty accurate representation of how that type of relationship occurs. But it's also not really shown in its full explicitness.
Well, I think one thing that I thought was very interesting, and, you know, I want to, you know, hear more from, you know, actual survivors to see their opinions on it, but I think what was really interesting between the book and the movie was this kind of difference between, in the book, Lily knows. Like, Lily knows he pushed her. Lily is very aware of what is happening. And I think in the movie, it comes off as, I'm confused. Oh, did this happen? I'm kind of believing him because he loves me. Like, he's telling her stories, and then you kind of see her more piece it together at the end, where it's like, no, this is what actually happened. Whereas I think in the book, she's very much aware. There's just a lot of reasoning behind a lot of the things, because when that accident does happen, she's like, you hit me. Like, she is like very stunned. She's like, you hit me. Like, don't, like, and she does end up forgiving him, but she says, if you ever do it again, like, I'm leaving you. Like, we don't get that in the movie. Like, we don't get that scene at all.
Does she just say, like, it's okay?
She's like, yeah, and she's like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't necessarily remember, but I just remember in the movie being like, oh,
I remember
this is
her
different.
Saying, yeah, it was different. I think I remember her saying, like, don't ever do that again.
I don't think she said that. Because I know one thing, and I didn't, you know, necessarily want to jump to it, but when something else happens again, when she hits her head, he's asking, where are you? like all of these questions, like, who am I? And she's like, you're my husband. And he's like, what am I doing? And she's like, you're keeping me safe. And that was not how like in the book, like she's like, no, like she's like livid, like she knows what's happening. And I think it's a little bit I think she's just so much more aware in the book, and she's like, okay, you know, an accident, he's really, really sorry. And I think that's when her relationship with her father comes into play, because she's kind of comparing the two, and she's like, my father, like, Ryle's a good man, I love him, like, and that's kind of where those are like, okay, he was so sorry, like, this is different, like, Ryle isn't my father, and I can't compare the two. And I don't think you get that as much in the movie, and I think that was a really powerful narrative that she had to kind of break through as a character.
I think that it's not that she wasn't aware in the film. I think that in the film she was aware. They just intentionally showed us how the gaslighting cycle happens. Or how, like, you know, you don't want to believe it, that it's happening to you, but you know. And that's why at the end you get the flashbacks of her recollecting the memories of the abuse, and she has to be confronted with the fact that this is real. That's how I interpreted it on film.
And I think I interpreted it that way as well. And when I left the film, I was like, oh, I liked how they did that. But then I'm kind of going back and I was like, can that be misinterpreted though? And I think that can be so easily misinterpreted. And I don't know. And I think that for me was really hard for the movie, because if somebody only saw the movie, I can really see them saying, it really seemed like an accident. And I think it was maybe a little too ambiguous. I don't know. I'm just, that was kind of like a concern I had for me, where in the book it's not really ambiguous at all. Even with the ending moments in the movie, like, yes, you kind of see her come to that kind of like, no, this is what it is. But I don't know, it kind of made me a little, not necessarily worried, but I was just kind of like, is that a little bit too, like, I saw what they were doing, but I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean?
I get it. I don't know, touching on the other topics not the other topics, the other moments that we see happen to Lily, she is pushed down the stairs by Ryle, which I think is pretty accurate. What's different is, we touched before, like, Ryle's kind of talking her through what happened. He's gaslighting her.
Yeah.
And I think as Lily in the book, she's more adamant on, like, no, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Whereas as, like, in the movie, she is like, yes, you're keeping me safe. And then the last moment was the hardest to watch.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being as hard to read, but it was so hard to watch. And maybe that's just how these things work.
I think it was pretty hard to read.
Really?
I think it was pretty hard to read. Or at least listen to.
Yeah. But it was definitely like an attempt of sexual assault occurred because Ryle found her diary entries to Ellen talking about Atlas. He found the little mementos of Alice she kept in her life, and it just got really bad.
But I think something that the movie didn't really touch on is this kind of like, so basically in the book we get kind of an insight to Ryle, and his sister's like, you need to tell her what happens. And we find out that he ended up you know, killing his older brother with a gun. And it's very similar to the story he told her on the rooftop, and that's why he was reacting the same way, and it's kind of messed him up. Not excusing his behavior whatsoever, but he does say, like, I just have a lot of stress from it, and I get really angry, and I just can't really control myself in that anger, and that he's been going through therapy for it. And basically they come to this understanding where she's like, you get angry, you need to walk away. Like, that is kind of this understanding they have with each other in the book, of if you get angry, if we're getting heated, you need to walk away. We are not like doing this. And he does at some moments, like when they're arguing about moving to Minnesota, I think, and staying in Boston, like he gets really mad at her. He's like, I'm gonna walk away, and then comes back in an hour, and it's like, okay, you know what, we're gonna stay in Boston, you're really important to me, whatever. And I think so you see, and I think that was so important because
it shows like the progression.
It shows the progression, but it also is so important in how you are sympathizing with Ryle as well.
But also, like, you can empathize more with Lily on why she stayed.
Yeah.
Like, it just becomes a little bit, like, you can just understand better her mentality, and then you also get to go into that mind of, like, the victim and be like, or stop asking the question, like, why did they stay?
Yeah. And I think it's really well done of, like, one thing she's always saying, it's for better or worse. I took him for better and worse, and we can get through this. I love him, we can get through this. Like, this is something that it's just a challenge in our marriage, but we can really get through. And I think it made sense to me. I was like, yeah, okay, like, I'm understanding. I'm understanding. Like, I get it. And I think you don't see that in the movie at all. It's just kind of actually what's her name? The sister's name? Alyssa. Alyssa ends up telling Lily in the movie about the brother. And I was like, why are we taking that moment away from Ryle? I think it was such a big part. It was so important. Like, even though Alyssa pushed him to do it in the book, like, he really sat her down, and it was a really important moment between the two of them where she was like, oh my God, my husband's hurting, and he's sharing this with me, and he's never shared this with anyone before, and I need to be there to protect him in this sense. And I think all of that was just so missed in the movie.
And it would have just helped it.
Yeah.
After the attempted essay on Lily, she asks Atlas for help, and she finds out that she's pregnant.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what?
I brought that up to say, because I just say things and I never hold back in, but I brought that up to say during, you know, that really heavy scene, I think it was so heavy, and I think reason why it, you know, it was really hard to watch, but I think it could have been so much more impactful in the movies, because she kept saying, walk away, like, you're angry, like, you need to walk away. And we saw him do it in the first moment, so we're hoping, like, as the reader, as you're like, just walk away, like you're just hoping, you're pleading with her in that moment of just take a chill pill, walk away, like, do what we've been practicing. And that's not what happens. And I think it's just even more heartbreaking, because, you know, it's almost kind of that he's losing his
trust.
Yeah, and he lost his one redeeming quality, like, you know. It's kind of like, as the reader, you're like, oh, this is not gonna go
especially because, like, and she has so much hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, she wants this to work.
You get
so badly.
It's soul crushing. You get your spirits crushed with her when he doesn't walk away.
Yeah. But shortly after that, she finds out she's pregnant, and then she leaves. Like, she goes and she lives with Atlas for weeks, right? Is it weeks, or is it a week?
Well, I think something else that was super interesting about the book and the movie, and I think it plays onto Ryle's character, is Ryle basically is like, look, I know you don't want to see me. I know you don't want to hear from me. he gets this opportunity in London. He's like, I'm gonna be gone for 3 months. Please come back to the apartment. I paid for everything. I made sure it's safe. Like, I just need to know that you're safe. Like, I want you to be safe and stuff. And I think for me, as someone who hasn't really had experiences with a lot of these kind of, topics, and to me, I think it was important, or it was good that the book wasn't so black and white. And I think it was like, in my head, I think a lot of times, and it really is so easy to just be like, they are hurting you, leave. It's that simple. It's just so not. It's so not. And I think even after everything that happened, having Ryle say that and just be like, okay, I know I messed up, I'm leaving, you can have the apartment. Like, she does end up moving back in there, and she does leave. She does stay with Atlas for a little bit.
Right. And also, like, this is never shown in the film explicitly, but throughout this time that they are separated and she is pregnant, she contemplates whether she wants to continue with Ryle or not. And it's never stated in the movie, because in the movie she kind of just goes and lives with her mom. Yeah,
I think in the movie she's done with him.
Exactly. But in the book, she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, because I really love him and he loves me, but I just don't know. And it's not until she gives birth to their child that she's like, she knows. It ends with us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that was so important as well. And I think even just having she has a conversation with her mom about it as well. And I think
that whole conversation didn't happen in the movie.
It was so
and I loved that conversation.
It was so important.
Her and her mom.
And I also think that was something that was really important in the book and the movie, was this kind of idea, because, when she is staying with Atlas, there's obviously love and romance still between them two. And in my head, it was very interesting, because I think in the book, she's like, Atlas, I can't do any, like, I can't move forward with you in any way. Like, we can't do this. I need space, and I need space to figure out my life. And I think he doesn't necessarily proposition her, because I don't think that's but I think they do realize that there is still feelings, and she's like, I can't even explore this right now. I need to figure out this baby. I need to figure out my feelings for Ryle. I just need to figure out where I am. In my head, I'm like, this man loves you. Like, he's the answer. And I'm like, but that's not the point. Like, she takes that moment and she's like, I can't just keep running to different people. Like, I need to figure this out for myself, and I need to do what works for me, and I can't have all this chitter chatter kind of telling me what is right. And I think that was really powerful. I think maybe in that moment she was taking her power, and she was like, I need to decide this for herself. And I think you also see that when Ryle comes back and she's like, we're not talking about staying together. Like, your baby, like, you have some part in your child's life, but I need to deal with this first. Like, we can have this conversation. She kind of, gets a little bit used to him being in her life again, but she's like, we're not going to talk about us. Like, I can't deal with this right now. And she is so good at setting that boundary. And I think that was just so important. And you don't get that in the movie as well. And I think that was just the biggest. I was just so proud of her, and like, her as a character. And I was like, I respected her so much for that, because I think that is just such a hard thing to do. And I really wish that was like portrayed in the movie.
I agree. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things in the movie that we wished they had time to fit in.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize though that like the movie was.
It
was a long movie.
Wait, what's the running time? I'm gonna look.
But the movie started at 8 and we got out at like 10:30.
Let's see what the running
it's like
time
2
is.
hours.
2 hours and 11 minutes. It was pretty long.
Yeah, it's a pretty long movie, so I understand that they can't get everything in. They got in, I think, the most important parts.
Yeah.
And I guess like they got their message across, right? Like I think the message that they tried to get across, they got across. I think they did the story justice regardless of if they missed the details that I really wanted.
Yeah.
I think that someone who didn't read the book would still leave the film feeling and understanding what Justin wanted them to feel.
I think the only thing, you know, when you were saying she makes that decision about, you know, him and staying when she sees her baby girl, and I think that was such a powerful scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I think personally it didn't come across as powerful like in the movie, and I think one reason for that is you basically, she's sitting here and she's like, Ryle, I want a divorce, and it's so sudden. He's like, no, like he's begging, he's like, please, like it won't happen. And she's like, right, but like if, you know, this little girl, if she comes up to you and she's like, Dad, I, you know, have this guy and he hit me, but like, and she's just kind of saying all of these things, and she's like, what would you want her to do? Like, what would you want for your daughter? And he is like begging her to stop. And I think in my head, it was this kind of idea where she's like, this is the situation you put me in, and you have to realize that. And I think that was a big moment for him, because I think it's those types of things where, and I think Justin says that, it's like they don't actually, a lot of times, you know, abusers aren't always saying I'm a terrible person, or they don't think they did something wrong. And I think she was like, you need to be confronted for what you did for me by putting their daughter in that position. And I think, or, you know, having that as a way to see, for him to see, like, I can't stay in this. Like, you wouldn't want your daughter to be put in them, so why are you asking me to stay in this position as well?
Yeah, I think that the whole last part of the film was so rushed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something I didn't like about the film was that it just felt like so rushed.
It was
in
pacing.
general. Like everything, I didn't get enough of anything to feel like there was a genuine connection between her and Ryle, her and Atlas, her and her mom, her and Alyssa, and like especially during the times when she was pregnant, like her moments in the book when she was pregnant were so important because she made those decisions for herself, and she really didn't know, and she still was independent. She didn't live with her mom. She like lived at Ryle and her's apartment. Ryle did go to London, and they had a lot of time apart from each other that we just didn't really see. So yeah, a big critique there on the pacing of the film.
I wish I didn't read the book before I saw the film. And if you haven't read the book, I actually think you should see the film first. I think...
I want to know what you think.
Yeah.
If you're just watching the film.
Yeah.
And like if you think that the storyline is amazing or not.
I want that perspective.
Yeah, because the book just adds a deeper layer to it. But I can definitely see how the film alone can stand and its own piece of art and work, and it still works.
And for me, I don't know if I can see that, and I think that is the main, and I think that might just be because I read the books like right before I saw the movie. So I just can't, I'm like, it's so different. And I think that was like my biggest thing, where I was just so disappointed because I really wanted to see the book brought to life. And I don't know if I can say the movie did the book justice. I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that the movie conveyed a message that was very compelling and that really matters. But I don't know if the movie did the book justice, because the book is just so much more. That being said, I rate the movie 6 out of 10.
You rated the same as Bridgerton? Sorry, I just thought of it. I was like, wait.
That's good.
If I had to rate the movie, I'd probably rate it a 4.
Okay. I rate the book maybe an 8 out of 10.
I would agree with that. I think the book's 8 out of 10. I actually think I thought the book was actually very, very well done. And I think maybe it was just that, like, I had really low expectations going in for the book and really high expectations going in for the movie. So there was kind of, you know, it was really unfair. But I was actually very surprised I enjoyed the book as much as I did, because, like I said, it's not something I typically would read. It got me too much in my feels. I am too sad to read sad books.
Yeah, the book, it just broke your heart.
Yeah.
And then the end, it was so good. And if you have read the sequel, let me know, but I did not like the sequel.
Also, did you end up crying during the movie?
No.
There was a moment, one tear. It got one tear for me. So I will give it that, which is actually quite hard to do.
No, it's not.
It really is. I don't really cry. I mean, but there was one point where I was like, okay. So I will give it that. I will say the movie did invoke some emotion. I'm not just a deep, dark chasm.
No, I definitely see how it did. It just, like, so much about the movie was really hard for me to empathize with, because I just wanted more. And then it was so hard for me to split Blake Lively and Lily.
I just think the casting really messed it up.
I really wanted,
Yeah.
like, fresh faces would have been nice. It was
Yeah.
just so hard, because all I saw was Blake Lively. And then, like, Blake Lively even commented that her husband Ryan Reynolds wrote the rooftop scene, and that makes sense.
It made so much sense.
It's just, like, especially because we just saw Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yep, you're quippy,
Yeah.
you're cool with your words, I get it. I get it, you're funny. But yeah, it was just really hard to differentiate the characters, and I think that if I had fresh faces, it would have been more impactful for me.
And it's not saying that the actors didn't do a good job,
No,
because
they
I was
did
actually
amazing.
quite impressed with the
They
acting.
did so good.
And I think they did good. It's just I really wish it wasn't, you know, name brand actors. I think somebody could have been a lot better suited for the role. First of all, and you know, I might get hate for this, I don't think Blake Lively looks good as a redhead. I just don't.
She was barely a redhead.
She just, I don't know. I was like, no.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now on to just talking about the movie.
The
and
controversy.
I have to say, I hated the outfits. I hated
they're
whatever
so bad.
Lily wore, whatever
Those
Alyssa
rhinestone shoes.
They were so bad.
And I was like, why? Why?
Like, I understand Lily is creative. I understand that, like, she opened this punk rock alternative flower shop, and she's so cool. But she doesn't, to me, she's not that outward with her appearance and her looks.
She's not a seductress. Blake Lively is, I feel like that's, you know what I mean? Like, Blake Lively is very seductive.
Yeah, but when the only time she did that was when they were sleeping together, right?
No, but I think just Blake Lively in a sense is just very
Yeah, I think that, like, yeah.
like she's
Blake
Serena
Lively's
Vanderwood. Like, I don't know.
Blake Lively's a little too sexy to play Lily. Lily's a little, like,
she's girl next
quirky.
door.
Yeah. She's
Blake
more
Lively's not girl
reserved.
next door.
Yeah.
And I think, I think all I saw was Serena Vanderwood. She's not.
Who would we wanted to play?
You know who I saw a fan cast for? Did you watch the Winx series on Netflix. So there was this girl, Bloom, and I never finished the Wings series, but
Okay.
they had a fan class for her, and I'll show you her, and we'll maybe put something. But it was her.
Cause I'm thinking that girl from Stranger Things.
I never saw that. It was her. They had her as kind of like a fan cast of like Lily Bloom.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll put a picture.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. You know the All Too Well Taylor Swift music video?
No, I never saw.
Then I don't know how to help you. But yeah, no, I just kind of imagined someone closer to like the girl from Stranger Things.
I think it's also because I think Blake Lively's just way too mature for the role. I think that is a big thing. Maybe that's what I meant by kind of like this seductive kind of womanly. Like I didn't get that really from Lily. Like she is only 23 in the book, and I think, you know.
Yeah, I mean Lily in the book is a little bit more lost.
Yeah.
Whereas like Lily in the movie is a little bit more has a better foundation of what she wants.
But it's also just even the way you move through life and way.
No, I don't know.
Because I think a 23-year-old's going to move through life very differently than a 30-year-old.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I think that kind of was lost for me as well. In that idea, like, I don't know, I just don't see her wearing rhinestone stiletto boots.
Yeah, no.
I don't.
And same with Alyssa. Like, Alyssa, the character, is supposed to be like a millionaire, bajillionaire, but she wore the most odd things.
Yeah, but I feel like also, I don't know, I didn't really think that made sense for her as a character.
And then it's like, Ryle just wore the most basic ass, like, black. His whole wardrobe was black.
But Justin is
And then
a beautiful
Atlas,
man.
all he wore was jeans.
Yeah.
So then I'm kind of like, why?
And I think
know.
the whole controversy was kind of also, I don't know, to me, it was a little frustrating because I was like, you have such an important topic and you have such an important...
Bring your photo.
No, but even just like, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, this is such a big chance for undervalued and underappreciated stories to come to light. And I think that, I don't know, even just with the controversy itself being such centered in the news, like it's taking away from the people's whose voices aren't.
No, I agree.
Heard.
I think that watching the film, it was really hard for me to also see Blake Lively's Lily Bloom because of the controversy.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to watch Justin and Blake Lively like shoot their intimate scenes because of the controversy.
Yeah.
Like it just felt wrong. Like
Yeah.
I felt like it was just not true.
Yeah.
Like I didn't believe them.
Yeah.
But they're acting. Like that's
Yeah.
all that I thought.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, they're acting.
Yeah. And I know Justin has like had more of a like voice for the important matters and things like that. But I don't know, I think it's just really hard when you do have these kind of controversies that kind of take away from what the movie is actually about. And I think it's important to just kind of recognize, like, even if there was beef, whatever, like, that's not the point of the movie. And I think the point of the movie was to give voices to people who kind of, you know, don't have one. And that is the most important thing. And you know, nobody cares about the rings you're wearing or certain things. Or what was it? It's Britney Spears' dress.
I think that it just kind of shows how Blake Lively isn't really fit for this type of movie, which is fine. I think, like, rumor has it that Colleen Hoover really wanted Blake Lively to play Lily Bloom. And, like, I mean, if the author has a specific, you know, actor in mind, why the heck not? It's just, like, Blake Lively, to me, is someone who's never experienced adversity in her whole life. So it's very hard for me to get on the bandwagon, especially when her PR strategy is very typical for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see if they make a sequel. I don't know what I was trying to say.
I thought you were gonna say, let's see if they make a sex sequel. I was like, oh, okay.
Let's see if they make a sequel. I haven't read it. I probably won't.
I don't think they will.
I don't know if this movie is gonna do good.
This book didn't need a sequel. The sequel
I also
kind
agree
of
with that.
dulled it down.
Yeah, I think we get the point. Like, she ends up with that list.
Yeah.
But I do think I thought it was such, like, even just the name of the book, It Ends With Us. I think that is just such a beautiful, like, it's just so powerful. Like,
I agree.
I'm having it end here now with me. I'm making that choice, and I think that's really what this book was about. It's like, you know, taking back power and making the choices, not only for yourself, for future generations. And it's just it is just really beautiful.
I agree. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to us and a review of It Ends With Us. Let us know if you know you have a different perspective than us.
And
let us know if we're wrong in any of
yeah,
our perspectives.
definitely.
Please let us know. We want to correct that. We're not the type of people who've experienced anything close to the things that were portrayed in this film, in this book, and we want to be as sensitive and, like, you know, as respectful as possible. But
and we want to give space to hear those voices as well.
Exactly.
And to say, like, no, this is actually what I think, and you know, we want to hear that from you guys as well. So,
but thanks for listening to us. If you like us, please subscribe or hit the like button.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.